You mentioned hydroponics a lot.
Yes.
Have you heard about permaculture?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just because I haven't heard you mentioning that a lot, but I know
I do mention it
you do
many
mention
times.
it because in your
I'm for it.
estate in Florida,
Yes.
you have like 22 acres, is it?
Yes.
That's pretty big. So I
Yes.
guess you use those principles there
Yeah.
because you didn't
There are
use
many different types
fertilizer.
of trees.
Hmm?
Not one kind of tree, many different
Exactly,
types.
yeah.
Yes. Permaculture means nature works better when there are many plants. Monoculture doesn't.
Exactly.
That's a fact. That's
Talk
verifiable.
more about that because I'm what I've been hearing a lot is like hydroponics, but I mean
No, it's multiculture,
Yeah.
hydroponics. What flows down to the next plant is what that plant uses. What flows down to the next plant is what that plant uses. Not all cabbages.
exactly
They are plants that enhance and enrich the soil.
exactly. So
If
you're
you do away
using-
with that, you lose out. In other words, the U.S. Army dumped 65 tons of nerve gas off the coast of Miami. How can you love the country and do that near the Gulf Stream? Do you understand?
I know.
That they don't even know what's necessary to live. The U.S. Army is an obedient group, not multi-valued, multi-educated, so they understand the holistic relationship of man to the environment and one another.
Yeah, so hydroponics is really the use of water
Water
and enriching the
Nutrients.
soil
and nutrients.
and to make the plants grow, and it goes together with
Yes.
permaculture.
It doesn't use soil. Hydroponics is without soil.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Yes.
But
But we use nutrients.
Yes.
But how do you where do you get those nutrients?
Where do you use it?
No, where do you get them? The nutrients
Oh.
for the hydroponics.
The nutrients are extracted from materials that you don't use. In other words, there's a lot of leftover food, a lot of leftover things in restaurants which we dump. In the future, they'll be broken down and recycled.
They
But-
also use salt water in hydroponics.
I've seen fish can live in the same
We
water that
have
the
to.
plants swim in, live in, in the
No,
soil.
the soil has to be self-enriching
Exactly.
by plants decomposing.
But
You have to use different kinds of plants together.
exactly.
So those that decompose serve those that you're eating.
But are you thinking that we need a balance between hydroponics and permaculture, or
Yes.
in a
We have to study the food, feed it to people or animals, and check it out. You check everything out. We don't even build a dam. We build a dam and then we write all the good products of the dam. Then we have another team to give us all the negative sides of the dam. The dam stops fishers from getting to the spawning grounds. The dam stops the tributaries, the little rivers that run. And the beavers can't build dams. That changes the water table. We do a negative study before we build anything. All the negative effects of the new project
but
have to be evaluated in terms
Okay.
of the overall picture.
then we're talking about the
There's
the
no
new-
vested interest,
the
so
new-
there's no reason
Yeah.
to lie.
But now we're talking about the new urban design, you could say.
Yeah.
You're talking about circular cities,
Yes.
full enclosure cities,
Circular cities.
and also these full total enclosure.
Total enclosure
Yeah.
Total
systems.
enclosure.
Total
sys-
enclosures. That
Cities?
means a city that's self-sufficient.
I know, and you're talking about,
Recycling waste and everything.
and I said that the third category would be like freestanding houses,
I don't know what you
They'd be
mean by
within
that.
the city systems.
because
What do you mean by freestanding houses?
Because after what I've read,
Yeah.
you are proposing and suggesting that one can go into an architectural center with a 3D hemisphere, and you can design your building, your house there, and you can basically live wherever you want. Since there are no jobs anymore,
Yeah.
you don't have to live in a particular place because
You
of a
don't
job.
have to live in the new cities.
No, so you can live outside the cities.
Yes, you can, but it's inefficient.
is inefficient.
That means the people will not have as many options if you don't live in a city. If you live in a city, your options will be enormous. If you live outside the city, they're less.
So what kind of options are you talking about?
Well, when you live in a city, it's designed to be fireproof. But if you say, I like living in a log cabin, if it catches fire, that's your problem. If you live in the new city, we have no fire combustion stuff around. What we do is change the most of the systems so you don't have those problems. For example, in the new city, there are no cars, but there's a uniform transportation system that'll take you around the city, up and down, and in and out. It'll travel vertically, cylindrically, and radially. The transportation units can take you anywhere in the city in a few minutes, so there are no cars where there are people congregating.
Exactly, but you're also saying that people can live anywhere they want.
Yes,
and
at their own, though, if they do that. For example,
but that's not within the resource-based economy. You mean you have to build
there
your own?
won't be many people doing that.
Well, how do you know that?
Oh, because I've checked with hundreds of people. I asked some people that belong to the Amish group. They wouldn't want to live in our city. They'd rather have their own city, grow their own vegetables, and live their own lifestyle. Here's how that works.
So they can do that.
Oh, yes, but let me tell you what the negatives are. If I say, we will build your cities for you, we will build them of fireproof material, but if the organization says, we like wood, we like the feel of wood, the peace, the touch of wood, then if it catches fire, that's your problem, not ours. We will take care of them if they go along with the Venus Project. If they don't, they have to handle that problem. If the Catholic Church says, go forth and multiply, that's what they say, the Lord will provide. If he doesn't, will you carry the surplus population? Yes, sign here.
The surplus what?
Population.
Oh, yeah.
If they say, go forth and multiply, if we don't have enough arable land area and they multiply, you're going to have a population problem, scarcity of food. The Catholic Church says God will supply. You really believe that? Yes. Sign here that if he doesn't, will you do it?
That's very hypothetical,
you pin them
isn't
down.
it?
No, it's real. If they really believe that, they'll
sign here? That's hypothetical, isn't it?
Well, if they really believe that, the Lord will provide. They really believe that.
That's the catalysts.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is that in the Venus Project, in the resource-based economy,
yes,
you can't basically live wherever you want. You have to live in one of the cities,
no, you
or
don't
else
have to.
You're on your own.
Or else you're on your own. If you want to live outside the city, if you don't understand what the city is for, why it's designed that way, you wouldn't want to live outside the city.
No.
Because the center of the city has everything you need. Each district is the same distance from the center. But if you build suburbia all over the place, you have to take your kids to children's center there, then you go to work in that direction, shopping is another.
But you're not
waste fuel.
You're not going to work, and you don't have to put your children in the center when there are no jobs.
That's good. That phase is called the transition. During the transition, there will be a lot of problems. It's not going to be smooth or easy. After the transition, when we get there, we get to the Venus, then most jobs will be phased out, not all jobs, most of them. Then eventually, all jobs.
But if you want to live close to nature and grow your own food, will you be part of the Venus Project then, or will you not?
No, that person refuses to join the Venus Project.
Uh-huh.
They'll be toiling most of their time to grow their own food, too. If they had many options of learning many different things, art centers, music centers, recreational areas, I don't think they'd pick toiling in a garden. You can do that. You could work in the agricultural areas or the hydroponic areas, or learning how to produce higher yield per acre and not contaminating the food. But I don't think people will want to go back and revert back to toiling in a garden They would do that because they'd want to make good food for themselves, but there wouldn't be any other food in the Venus Project but good, healthy food.
You couldn't buy
But
cigarettes.
I'm thinking about buying a farm
And
and grow my own food with the permaculture
I'm
principles.
all for it.
You're all for it.
For you doing that.
But you're saying that in the cities you'll only grow food the hydroponic way or
No, I didn't say
permaculture
that.
way.
Everything would be tried, not just in agriculture, but
Everything.
you'd have so many more options
Okay.
and so much more experimental processes. Nothing like today. Everybody would have methods of experimenting and trying things.
So it can be permaculture, hydroponics, and
Yes, whatever you want.
logical,
We try
organic
one
farming,
system.
anything.
If we try hydroponics and we feel that it's been tested sufficiently and the public health maintained, the doctors are responsible for the health of people.
Mm-hmm.
If it drops below a certain standard, they have to go back to school. They're not punished. Nobody is
Exactly.
punished.
So,
There are no prisons, no police.
I mean, it seems like society is organized by people organizing themselves.
No,
And
but
doing
the establishment. The establishment tells what you can do in school. The Board of Education arranges the courses so they fit the culture.
Okay, so it's like that today.
You don't have free schools. You don't have free learning. You want to be a doctor, you will owe $40,000 to $50,000 for all the time.
I know. That's how it is today. But to get to
The resource
your
Venus
vision,
Project.
your
Yeah.
vision. I mean,
It's an educational process.
yeah, exactly. But there will always be different personal
Feelings about
feelings,
Lifestyles,
interpretations
Of course.
of a resource-based
course.
economy,
True.
and
True.
no one can dictate how it should be everywhere,
We
because
don't
that would be a dictatorship, right?
We don't dictate.
No, you don't
I better
dictate.
tell you how we build our cities, how we decide things,
Exactly.
who makes the decisions. You want to know that?
You told.
Okay. Here's how decisions
It will be
are
arrived at.
arrived at. You know what that
Exactly, I know.
means?
I've heard
It's-
that many times.
Okay.
So I want to take some stuff I haven't heard before. Okay.
Okay, good.
So yes, just to take that, you have trademarked
I don't know
the
what you mean.
resource-based economy.
Well, he came up
Term.
with that, but other people are taking it and making it into something else. We can't protect that. We
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
trademark it. They
They
wouldn't
use
trademark it.
our photographs and our drawings to raise money for their own projects.
Yeah, I know.
So I have to stop that somehow within the system. Otherwise, they don't represent the Venus Project. There are people in Australia that want to build their own 1,500,000 to 3 or 4,000. Cities will vary, but they'll all be based upon the maximum efficiency for that area.
Will they all look the same?
No, not at all. Their functions are different.
Who's going to design the cities?
No one. First they do a survey of a group of people that are in the motion picture business, and say, what do you want in that city that would make it optimal? And they don't always know, but we do a study of their activities and say, what you really want is a circular studio with partitions and all the cameras and equipment in the middle, so you can go to any set you want to, instead of building it in a square building, which is inefficient as hell. We do a survey of the energy required to make a film, and we cut down the energy, but we maintain an environment so they can shoot pictures about China, Sweden, any place, any kind of characters. But the women don't have to go to bed with the directors to get a part in the picture. No one has control over those things. For the first time in your life, you can want to become an artist or a painter. You can go and study any kind of art you want to, any kind of music you want to.
But what I'm talking about is like one particular building in the city.
Yes.
It will have to have a shape.
Yes, it will.
Who's going to decide that
Here's
shape?
who decides that. First of all, somebody comes up with a new building material. It's called foam concrete. It's lighter in the middle and dense at the ends, and it weighs very little. That's the best we have up to now. So the city will be built of that material. But as you evolve and make newer materials...
I mean, the shape. I mean, you are a designer.
Yes.
You've been making many different shapes, many different houses.
Yes.
Boats,
yes.
airplanes.
Yes.
I know a lot about you because I've been studying a lot.
I can tell
and
you.
you decide the shape of you decide the shape of the buildings.
No, not exactly. Let me get one subject at a time. Aviation, okay?
No, I know about that because it's the shape of the wing.
It has to be that
It's its
shape.
functionality. I understand that. But still, you want all the houses to be white because that is the most functional? No?
No.
Okay.
You can paint your house any color you want.
Any color you want.
And at the interior also. You can dial different colors on your interior.
How are you going to do that?
Oh, you do it by using little spheres. And light hitting the spheres at a different angle gives you a different color.
Okay.
So your television set can generate any color you want.
Exactly.
Just like your television set.
But what about the windows? Shall they be circular or rectangular or?
No, the windows depends on the orientation of your building. To conserve energy, we have the windows in a given location for energy. Two, the windows are also photoelectric cells. They generate electricity and light, let the light in, but not infrared, not heat waves. They're made of a special kind of glass with different ingredients to take advantage of the area.
What about, like, say, a chair or a sofa?
Oh, that's not designed by artists, only by anatomists to fit the spinal curve and the contours of the human body. No more artists designing clothing. Clothing has to yield when you lift your arm, not pull.
But who can decide that? Because, I mean, people...
Here's who decides that.
No. People will have to be able to choose. Say, if one says, I wanted to design a shirt, who's going to stop that person from doing that?
You can design and wear your own shirts if you want to. But the shirts that are available have different colors, different patterns, but they don't button together. When they don't pull when you raise your arm, they're designed to give in this region. The collars are never tight enough to stop blood supply, so people do it all the time. So you get rid of a lot of nervous disorders. Will there be a place for individuals who don't want to live in that circular city? They want to live their own lifestyle.
I have a question.
Are they forced?
I have a question.
Yes.
I mean, who can stop someone who has made something, whatever it is, to give it to someone else, or maybe even demand something else in return? Who can stop anyone from doing that?
There's no money. We don't intend to.
No. But money, I mean, today, you could say also today, we also have a resource-based economy, and the resource it's based on is oil. You know?
Yeah. Well,
because without the oil,
yeah, but there's
there wouldn't...
corruption payoffs. You know.
I know. I mean, it's a totally fucked up system.
Yes.
But still, the resource is oil. And it's based on that they are pumping up oil and they're demanding...
I think I know where you're going.
Man,
if you make something, do a painting,
no, let me finish.
you can give it to a person.
Yeah, exactly, a painting. But still also, you could say that I have this orchard full of these delicious apples.
Yes.
And I'm the devil's advocate again here.
I understand.
And if you want them, you know, I want to have carrots or eggs, or I want you to come and perform for me and my wife in my garden, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
No one can stop anyone from doing that.
Well, most people won't do it. They won't do what you think they do.
They can stop them if they can get apples for free.
Yeah.
You know, unless they want to, in the interim, in the transition, they will be working in different areas that interest them. But you can't make somebody do something they don't want to, because they have access to goods and services. That's how you control people today. They say, paint my roof, and they say, I'll give you $35, and no. I'll give you $50, no. I'll give you $150, okay. That's how they control them today. But if they have access to what they want, they only want that money so they can get what they want.
Still, but someone has to give them
During
access.
the transition, they need education.
Yeah.
If Edison comes up with an electric light, nobody knows about it. He has to publicize it, put books out on what electricity is, what the electric light is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the gas companies will have a gas lamp in your house. And the gas companies say when it blows out, the whole family dies. Edison says his lamp, when it blows out, nobody dies. Now, there are a lot of people still use a gas light and kerosene lamps. But eventually, people, when they're ready for it, when they understand what it does, the person says, well, I want the light to be... Look, let me tell you a real story. There's an island off Ireland called Isle of Man. And on that, years ago, women used to go down to the river and wear a harness and bring up 2 buckets of water up about a quarter of a mile. Now, they would get water to cook with. They'd have to skin animals, melt the fat down for light for the lamp. So we tell them, you know, someday you'll be able to turn a faucet and get water right where you're at, hot or cold. I said, that's ridiculous. And you won't have to go down to the river, fill the buckets and carry it up the house. You just turn the thing and water comes out. And then you'll have light. You press a button, the light goes on. You won't have to do with the fat and put it in the lamp, kerosene or anything else. And they say, what will women do? They think that that's it. That's the world of the future that I talk about is not fixed. There are no utopias, no final frontiers. It's always changing. Same with education.
And who is changing it? It is the people on this planet, right? Or what? Or who?
No, nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
No, the world today is on the backs of no more than 100 people. Edison, Pasteur, very few people gave us all these wonderful things. Reservoirs, pumps, automobiles, airplanes. It's not done by millions of people. Do you understand that?
I understand, but I'm talking about the mentality and the attitudes.
That's what education is for. We will educate them out of that, out of everything that's irrelevant. Meaning if a person says, have a nice weekend, they will never say that. They'll say, today, they don't say have a nice life. Why just a weekend? You know what I mean? Just have a nice life, period. That's the end.
That's an insult today.
Yes, it is. It is.
Have a nice life.
Yeah, because they don't control the weather, so how can they say have a nice life? They will talk differently. They'll be educated in semantics.
But who will educate them?
Okay. Not who. How are areas selected to use? Who does the selecting of what people are to learn? The nature of the physical environment. If we have a shortage of water, research is done on cleaning and preparing water in the salt water, in the contaminated regions. The labs are assigned jobs The jobs are assigned by the survey committee. If we have 500 cases of heart disease or 20,000, that determines how many hospitals, how much equipment a hospital has by the condition after survey.
So there's a survey committee.
All they do is surveys, give the information to central planning, and central planning says...
Who is central planning?
Central planning might be a group of architects, and how big is the city built? That's determined by population surveys. All the groups do not work on their own.
Who decides who this group is made up
How
of?
do you decide who builds a bridge? The carpenter, the baker, bridge builders
Yeah, but today the bridge builders
are assigned
well,
that
they're
job.
also chosen by the price they give to the government, for how
Okay.
much it costs to build a bridge.
Yeah,
and everything.
but most engineers that have built bridges are qualified to build bridges. Otherwise, you don't get out of the university unless you get a certificate that indicates that.
Still, in a resource-based economy, who of the engineers will be chosen to build the bridge? Or
Okay.
draw the bridge?
We do a survey of the earth first, cities, islands, and how many bridges are needed to maximize the performance of that area.
Mm-hmm.
That's a survey committee. Then the next thing a survey committee does is have to know how many cars are going over that bridge and what weight are those cars. The bridge engineers base all their actions on what they get
But
in the
who,
survey.
who chooses the bridge engineers? And
Oh,
the survey
bridge
committee?
engineers, we already have a file on bridge engineers, architects,
have a file?
chemists. We have files.
The very first thing that has to be done, first of all, people have to agree that this is a direction they want to move in.
Mm-hmm.
And the direction and the agenda has already been laid out. If you want a certain end goal, if you don't want war, poverty, hunger, crime, then we're offering a direction to work towards. And we're offering automation eventually so you get people out of positions so there's crime or corruption. That's the end goal. But in order to do that, once we decide enough people want to go in this direction and enough people know about it and this system is collapsing, then we take a survey, and the survey includes all the resources, all the technical personnel, the nature of the land in different areas, what's the nature of the land, what's the best things to grow on the land, and then what's the best to rotate to, where the population is, where the technical personnel are, where the factories are. We have to know what we're dealing with first, and that dictates what we do towards the end goal of housing, feeding people, giving them the best education that we know to this time, what professions to teach to help enhance this direction. You don't need lawyers, you don't need bankers, you don't need ad agents, you don't need all the superfluous professions that are just vultures in this society. So that determines, it's not what somebody thinks, they don't sit back and plan. The direction we're moving to determines what people will study, where hospitals will be built, because that's our aim, to bring people to their highest potential, to have them have the best health that they can in order to participate in society. Every kid that you have shooting up drugs at the corner is detrimental to society. The society in general has to pay for that in the end. So we don't want any old cars that wear out and break down. We wouldn't even use cars. That's why these cities are so detrimental. You've got cars sitting at stoplights and exhausting all these fumes. None of the buildings work together. It's all very high energy running these systems. There's no good waste disposal. Nothing's organized. That's why we would build new, clean, self-sustaining cities with low resource maintenance.
I understand. And that's all well and good, and I agree totally about the whole concept. So don't get me wrong when I'm playing the devil's advocate here, okay?
We want you to.
Because this is what the questions that media and everyone asks and want to ask, you know.
You're right.
But I've been thinking, you know, that.
I'm glad you're doing this.
Thank you.
It's important. It's needed.
Thinking, yeah. Today, of course, money is a somewhat incentive.
Yes, that's true.
Incentive building system.
Yes.
But still, People don't do what they do only because of money. No, I mean, most people try to find an education to work with that gives them something more than just money. And if they go and play golf, for instance, it's not because of the money, it's because of the joy of doing it, right?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, don't we need something to replace money in the resource-based economy? And just let me finish.
The end of poverty.
This is my story, my idea. Because today, many people do what they do because of the love they have for what they do, right?
Well, because of the way they were brought
Very
up.
few people do that. Most people have jobs they don't like, even if they're in a profession they
I
liked
know,
originally.
but when they have jobs they like, and when they do their hobbies, right?
Yes.
They do it because they
It's
like.
rare.
But they're brought up to that hobby.
I don't think it's that
Hunting,
anyway,
target
that's a discussion.
practice, automobile racing, all of those
Well,
professions.
many things. I mean, like musicians, filmmakers. I'm doing this
Yeah,
because I love doing it.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm not doing this because of the money.
Everything you want to do is part of the culture you're raised in. I never saw an Eskimo ask for a stainless steel igloo. I never saw an American Indian say, I want a twin-engine Beechcraft airplane. They always want a wigwam or a straight arrow. You can't want anything outside of your culture.
Okay, but still then, what will make people do
What
they
will
do?
drive people?
What will drive people to do stuff then?
I'm going to try to answer that.
Yeah.
First of all, you're brought up in a world where you accept you want to work in the Venus Project. If that is true, then Martin Luther King marched into the South not because somebody put $40,000 in a Swiss bank to do that. Gandhi walked for miles and he taught what he'd like to see, a free India, not for money, because he believed in that. That, to me, is much more significant than doing things for money. I don't trust people that do things for
But
money.
Gandhi also said that the biggest joy is to help others.
Yes,
So to helping others gave Gandhi joy.
yes.
And then isn't joy the driving
That's what
force?
we do in the training of children.
Yeah, but then wouldn't joy be the driving force
Oh, sure.
in a resource-based economy?
No,
No?
the end of poverty would be the joy. When you end poverty,
Yeah, but
then
that's
we
like one time. Okay, now we ended poverty. Now what do we do?
now we work on hurricanes, earthquakes, everything else. All the problems that confront the world become the priorities.
But I mean, you cannot eradicate all problems. And
No,
then think
we
that you have-
eradicate those that we can with what we know up to that time.
But then what you do when you have eradicated everything?
There's no such thing.
What's the point of
The
life?
point is that you cannot do that, that there are no final frontiers. That's the bullshit of the session. Final frontiers, utopia, no such thing. We build the best city we can with what we know up to now. 10 years from now, your laptop will be smaller, faster, lighter, do more things than they do now. Do you understand that?
Oh,
You can't
perfectly.
make the final laptop. There's no such thing as finality. That's the words they use today. That's the world you live in today with a language that was designed thousands of years ago, which makes it impossible to talk to other people. You think you talk to other people. You talk at them, and they take what you say, and it comes out a little different in their head. But we will also work on a language that's not subject to interpretation. When you read the Bible, it says, this is what Jesus meant. Another person says, you're wrong. He meant that. The third person says, you're both wrong. He meant this. So you have the Lutheran, the Seventh-day Adventist, the Catholic, because it's subject to interpretation. The language of the future will not be subject to interpretation. Chemistry, mathematics, engineering is not subject to interpretation.
Just
They'll never sit back in the future and say, okay, we have it all. There are always going to be things to overcome and to work on in new directions. The values of the future will be they won't be like they are today. And the direction that people work toward won't be like today. They'll generate their own.
I have an architect comes up to me and said, I would like to be as creative as you. What can I do? I said, what do you want? I want to be creative in architecture. Wide range of formation. I said, all right, study seashells first. They have all kinds of configurations. Then study geometry. There's all kinds of configurations. Then you'll be more creative than you are now. That's what creativity is. Taking known objects, putting them together in unique ways. Do you understand my language?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's what creativity is.
So
They take a story and they put it together. No one ever came up with a design of a Martian in Hollywood without using crab's claws, a grasshopper's head. You know, they use known objects and put them together in unique ways. That's what creativity is.
So you
Nothing
look at,
magic.
You look at nature, for instance.
I can condition children to become very creative.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Okay.
But you look at nature, for instance.
I what?
You look at nature.
Oh, yes.
You use
Nature has
a lot.
millions of shapes.
Millions, billions.
Yes. And we don't even know where we got it
And
from.
that's very, we don't know where we got that
Let me
from.
tell you something
Where
that
did
you
we get
ought
that
to
from?
know.
Yeah.
What you really want to know is what makes Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Tesla so far advanced than the average person. Man, this is going to be horrible for you to accept. Man can't think or reason. Neither can I. I'm going to tell you what it is, okay? They say to me, how did Tesla think of the wireless? There's no wireless out there. There's nothing he can use as a referent. Do you understand my
Yeah.
language? If you don't, you're supposed to interrupt me. So I said, here's where Tesla got the wireless from. When you bought electric wire years ago, they wrapped it around cardboard. Before they used to bunch it in a bag and then tangle up the wire. That's why they wrapped around the cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the wire was broken. You didn't know that. So you put two clips on and run a current through it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To see if the wire wasn't broken.
Yeah.
But if you bought fine wire, they wrapped around a small spool. And then when you left the store, they put this fine wire inside the coil with a large wire to save space instead of two packages. When you check the outside coil, it induced the current without any connection on the inside coil. That's where Tesla got it from. He did not invent it. So the guys, I was speaking at Princeton, the guys from the optic department said, I don't agree with you. I think man can think and reason. I said, give me one example. He said, 1,000. I said, I can't do anything with that. Give me one. The camera. There was a time when there was no camera. Somebody had to think of it. I said, did you know if you walk in the barn in the daytime it's very dark? Yeah. You know what a knothole is? If there's daylight in a hole, you'll see cows walking upside down on the wall of the barn. Did you know that?
I know, yeah.
That's where the pinhole came. That's where the camera came from. The pinhole camera.
Yeah,
So he got mad at me. He said, what about the movie camera? I said, 1,000 years ago in China, they'd cut a girl out of paper and glue it together in this position. It was called a dancing girl. And they'd put that paper straight, put a candle here, and oil paper here. The candle would cast an image of the girl on the oil paper. As the candle flickered, the girl danced.
Yeah, exactly. So
but even the movie camera is serially developed, slowly, so slow that you don't know what those ingredients are. The human brain cannot think of anything outside of their experience.
So what you're saying is that the things that we get
come from the senses, the nose, the eyes, the ears.
But they already exist, kind of in a.
In the head? No.
No, not in the head, but like in.
Outside.
Outside.
Yes.
It already exists in nature, you could say.
Yeah, but we extrapolate upon that.
We discover
the more experience you have in more areas, the more you can bring to any subject.
Exactly. So, what would you, both of you, recommend that we start doing from here?
First of all, learn about the Venus Project, thevenusproject.com. We have a lot of free information on there, including the Zeitgeist movement. That's the activist arm of the Venus Project. We have a lot of books and videos that introduce these new value systems and this new direction to people. So that's our safeguard in the future, as many people who understand this direction the best that they can. And when you learn about it, talk to others about it. put it on media, write books about it, do TV shows about it, do music about it, just to introduce it to other people, because that's where we're at right now, the educational stage. Then we want to do a major motion picture to introduce it to the general public and show what life would be like in the future, then show how we get from here to there, and hopefully do a new city, show that we're breaking ground at the end of the city.
How is it going with the motion picture project?
Well, we have to meet people who can help support that.
Okay. And the city?
Same thing.
Same thing.
We have lots of plans. We have the VenusProjectDesign.com. That is a huge database of professionals that want to join us when we're ready, from rocket scientists to agriculturalists. The spans the gamut. And we also have people working on CAD drawings and animations of Jacque's designs for this new city.
Yeah.